Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. If you want to take your shooting experience to the next level, then check out Coltac gear for 100% made in America products. Coltac manufactures specialty gear designed for long-range shooting, hunting, and other tactical applications. From their support bags, suppressor covers, shooting mats, and a whole lot more, Coltac is creating tough, durable, and innovative gear for both civilian and professional markets. Go to coltac.com to see all that they have to offer. That's cole-tac.com. If you are looking to get a new rifle or build your own, look no further than Kelbley's. Kelbley's actions and rifles have a higher level of accuracy and hold 92 world records set on either one of their rifles or rifle actions. Whether you're looking for an ultralight mountain rifle or wanting to compete in precision rifle shooting, Kelbley's has you covered. Go to kelbley.com to find out more or give them a call as their customer service is the best. That's KELBLY.com. Kelbley's. If you're looking to take your hunting to another level, there's no better way to do it than by subscribing to onX Hunt. If you want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, onX is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust onX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. If you want to know more about onX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt or download their app today for a free trial. If you are wanting to become more accurate and deadly with your shooting, one of the best things you can do is upgrade your trigger with a Timney. Timney triggers are 100% made in America and have been since their founding, providing a crisp, reliable, and repeatable trigger break every time. I'll be shooting Timney triggers in my guns this year, and I hope you'll join me in shooting the world's finest trigger. Go to timneytriggers.com to get yours today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Today's episode is dedicated to not just the soul, not just the body, but the mind as well. I got Jason Helmes, the owner of Anyman Fitness. He is a huge profile and awesome account over on X for all of you who are only living in Instagram and Facebook world and TikTok. Go check out X, follow Jason over there. We're going to be talking about his transformation and his journey into fitness and maintaining health no matter what age you are. We're going to be talking about overcoming obstacles, challenges, and pulling yourself out of the deep, dark despair of what life can provide at times and the choices that we make. So without further ado, man of the hour, Jason, how you doing, brother?
Doing well, doing well. Appreciate you having me.
It's great to have you. It's so much fun connecting with people like you. You know, I've been following your content for quite some time. I've been in alignment with it. And ultimately, it's like, okay, people that listen to this podcast, they love to hunt, they love to be active, love to be outdoors. And that doesn't mean you're eating right. You know, a lot of times hunters make jokes about, you know, especially like the whitetail hunters that hunt out of blinds, like, oh, I got my little Debbie snacks, or like, you know, all these different
Mhm.
things that kind of just pass the time and put enjoyment into. And I have had my own personal struggles with nutrition over the years, and I have a lot of trauma in my childhood, which tended to be comforted by food. And so
Mhm.
with that comfort eating led to a lot of issues still that I currently face as an adult. Just this last year, I ended up dropping, oh, what was it? 20 pounds, 15, 20 pounds.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
then slowly I get off of my nutrition regimen and it creeps right back up. But also, the other thing is identifying how foods are so toxic nowadays. And so, staying away from things that are just naturally going to inflame your body. And so, what's a little history on yourself? You said before we started recording, you said you were a middle school teacher for a long time. You always been into fitness. Like, what is the story?
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in Cincinnati. I'm 6'8", so a real tall dude. And I was a high school athlete. I played baseball, played basketball in high school. Baseball took me to Michigan. I got a scholarship to play D1 baseball at Eastern Michigan. So I played for a couple of years, and once I stopped, I had basically been training for sports ever since I was 5 and I was in my 20s. And I was just so burnt out by it that I just basically stopped, you
Yeah.
know. And when you're not doing all of that constant training and conditioning and everything else, all of a sudden, I mean, it didn't take long before 220 pounds became 275 pounds, became 300 pounds. And I blew up. I blew up big time. And I started teaching in 2004, got married in 2005. And by the time it was about 2010 hit, my first child was born and I was well over 300 pounds.
Wow.
And I was teaching middle school at the time. And I was teaching at a school that had like my classroom was on the third floor and there was no air conditioning. And like by the time I climbed up the steps, like there's like sweat pouring off my face. I was that teacher who's teaching and like, remember those old overhead projectors?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I was teaching with those and like, sweat's like dripping onto the overhead projector just because I'm so out of shape, so obese. And after my first daughter was born, that made me become very aware of my responsibility as a father,
Hmm.
and the type of person that I wanted to be, the type of person that I wanted her to see me as. So I decided to get really serious into fitness, and I had gone to the gym relatively regularly, honestly, even during that time. Once I started teaching, I realized I was gaining weight. Oh, I need to go to the gym, but I'd lose 10, 15, 20 pounds. And then I'd kind of like back off of it a little bit. I'd get lazy. I'd regain the 20 pounds, just this constant yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
And I was tired of it. Like I was really sick of the constant yo-yo dieting. And I needed to learn how to do something sustainable. So I did a deep dive into nutrition, deep dive into training, got very serious about it. And so I started all these different protocols, kind of like using myself as a guinea pig. Over the course of 2 years, I dropped about 85 pounds. I got down to like 210. I was like the leanest and strongest I'd ever been. And I had a lot of friends and family that were asking me like, dude, what are you doing? Like, cause you were like 40% body fat. And then now I was like in single digits and, like I could deadlift 500 pounds. I could do like 30 pull-ups. Like I've never been so fit in my life, even back when I was playing sports.
Yeah.
So I just started helping friends, like just like, oh yeah, man, I'll create a diet for you. I'll create a workout plan for you. That sort of a thing. It was just for fun.
Hmm.
And they started getting really good results too.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my buddies, he was like, dude, when are you going to start a business? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I never even thought of it. Like, I thought it never even crossed my mind. And he's like, dude, like you have helped me lose like 40 pounds in the past 6 months. I have a six pack. I've never had a six pack before. I'm in my 30s at this point. He's like, who has a six pack in their 30s? And you helped me do that. People will pay you good money for this.
Hmm.
I went, huh, interesting. Like it was the first time I'd ever had that thought. And I remember that the very next day, like that was a Thursday, the very next day at school, at my lunch break, I literally got out like, on the district issued laptop. So I apologize to the school district. It was on their equipment. I think the statute of limitations are over on that one. But yeah, I Googled how to start a blog.
Yeah.
And that was like step number one. Like blogs were huge back then,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
Instagram and Facebook and TikToks, like those weren't a thing. It was all written word and blogs. And I was like, well, I like writing.
Hmm.
I always enjoyed it when I was in college. So I just started writing blogs about fitness, blogs about working out, that sort of a thing. Slowly started developing a clientele. And that was 2013 when I started the business. By 2016, I was doing much better with that than I was with teaching. And I was running out of hours in the day. I was, working from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. every single night, doing both jobs simultaneously. So I retired in 2016 from teaching after 12 years in the middle schools. And I've been doing this ever since, man.
I love
So
that.
working for myself, solopreneur, I guess you could call me.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I love that. Good for you. Well, when you decided to make the change, what were your biggest hurdles that you were facing?
Biggest hurdles. Honestly, one of the biggest hurdles was time.
Hmm.
I didn't have much time. My wife is an engineer. She works for Bose, the headphones people.
Hmm.
So she works like a very buttoned up, like white collar job. So she's working 40, 50 hours per week. I had two kids. Well, I had one when I very first started in 2011, but my second one came along in 2012. So I had two kids that were under the age of 2. They were both in diapers. They were both, waking you up in the middle of the night and all that stuff. And,
Yeah.
and I was teaching full time. and I was trying to do this like side business thing at the like. So I mean, I had like no time. So that was a big thing, and that really showed me the importance of planning when it comes to your meals, being intentional with your workouts, scheduling workouts like they are a non-negotiable business meeting and you will not miss them for any reason whatsoever.
Hmm.
It also taught me um, which exercises are going to provide you with the biggest return on your time investment,
Yeah.
right? Like, making sure that you're hitting compound movements that are really going to boost your metabolism, that are really going to build your strength, build your muscle. I used to think before I got into fitness, I used to think that you had to work out 90 minutes, 2 hours per day if you wanted any sort of good result. But with losing those 85 pounds, I didn't do any cardio. I lifted weights like 35, 40 minutes per day. I got plenty of steps because I was teaching at the time. So I was like walking a lot, but I didn't like, go do cardio. It's not like I went out and ran or anything. I just had my steps, I had my lifting, I had my diet. But it definitely showed me the importance, like I said, of planning things,
Mm.
making sure that you're always prepared for every situation. And because we had little kids and you said you used to be a teacher too, so you know this. Like
Yeah.
teaching is actually kind of good for that sort of a thing because you don't. I mean, you have like 40 minutes to scarf down some food while the kids are not in your classroom. It's not like you're going out to lunch every single day. So
Yeah.
you're automatically packing your food, that sort of a thing. So just always being prepared for every situation. And I still do that to this day, even though I have a lot more time freedom now. But I just built those habits at the time because I mean, I had this like little like 35, 40-minute window to work out 3 times per week. That's it. That's all I had.
Excuse me.
So I knew I had to stay rock solid, consistent with that. If I wanted to build strength, if I wanted to build muscle, if I wanted to lose fat, my diet had to be on point, my workouts had to be on point. So, time management is a big part of fitness.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Now, everyone from my experience, now I'm going to talk like the average American that maybe didn't play high competitive sports or, is just reliant day to day, the barely making it by. And a lot of excuses are always that, well, healthy food is expensive, right? Healthy food is expensive. Takes a lot of time to prepare, preparation, all that. If I'm traveling for work, it's hard to travel with good nutrition. Did you have any mental blocks for yourself when it came to that preparation? Obviously, as a teacher, you're not traveling for work, but vacations, holiday seasons, like what were you doing to prepare your mind so that you could stay consistent?
Yeah, it's always important to make sure that you have the right mental framework with those sorts of things, right? It's easy to stick to a regimented plan when you're at home and you're controlling every single meal. I have a lot of clients that travel extensively, so we have to have a whole lot of talks about, what is the hierarchy of importance when it comes to fat loss? How can we make sure that it happens? And calories are always first and foremost. To a lesser extent, you have protein. That's probably your second most important thing. If you're handling your calories and your protein, like you've probably knocked out 85 to 90% of nutrition right
Uh,
there. That being said, choices are extremely important. The types of choices that you make, hunger is your enemy when it comes to dieting, and processed foods might not agree with you digestively. They're not going to fill you up the way whole foods are. Those sorts of things. Um, when it comes to travel, one of the best pieces of advice you can hear is maintain or do your best to maintain while you're traveling and make rapid progress when you're at home.
yeah.
Don't expect to go on a week long business trip and come back 2 pounds lighter, because that's not realistic in order to do. Do the best that you can while you're there. There's some strategies that you can employ,
Yep.
to make sure that things don't get out of hand. But I think one of the biggest. I'm a big soft skills guy, and what I mean when I say soft skills is like I can set up your diet and your training and make sure that you're going to go from point A to point B and get a certain desired result each
Yeah.
and every week. Like, we can do that. But what are you going to do when it hits the fan? What are you going to do when you can't control certain things that you're used to being able to control? Can you live in those gray areas?
Mhm.
Can you have a bad 2 days and not let it affect you and get right back on it the next time. As long as your trajectory over the haul is moving in the right direction, you're good. But if you let 2 days turn into 2 weeks, turn into 2 months, well, now all of a sudden you're backsliding. So a lot of it is just realizing, coming to grips with the fact. And this is something that I kind of struggled with myself. I lost all the weight, and then it's like, okay, cool, let's relax on the diet a little bit. Now all of a sudden I'm starting to gain weight back, and like I had to get to the point where I'm like, dude, you always have to be paying attention to your diet. Like you have to, like, I'm 44 now. When I started this journey, I was 31, 32. But I've just realized, like, even when I'm 74 instead of 44, I'm gonna, if I don't want to gain a whole bunch of weight, I need to pay attention to my diet.
Yeah.
It's not ever something that I can just completely relax and like whatever on. Because if I'm left, I'm a hedonistic guy. Like if I'm left to my own devices, I'm gonna gain weight very quickly.
Uh-huh.
So it's just one of those things that you have to. Okay, this is the cross that I have to bear, and maybe part of it is the whole former fat guy thing. I'm not like a naturally lean guy who, like, some people out there, they hate the taste of being full. They hate the taste or the feeling of being full. There's people that just naturally stay lean. That's not me. Like
Yeah.
if I'm not paying attention to my diet, I'd weigh 300 pounds within a couple of months again.
I think the human psychology is so fascinating, and specifically, I attribute it to that of a gas tank of a vehicle, right? And humans, at least modern day humans that I experience day to day, is they have to have their gas tank constantly on the touching the F. It has to be hitting
Mm-hmm.
full. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what to do when that gas tank drops below half, right? They, oh,
Mm-hmm.
got to get back up to full, got to get it back up to full. And in how I'm attributing this is the idea of like what they're eating. Like if I don't feel full, I'm not doing it. Oh, I feel a little hunger in my stomach. I better eat.
Yeah.
I better top off and keep that rather than rolling on a gas tank. Obviously, you need calories and energy for movement and life and all that, but you can do a lot on a little. You can do a lot with
Yep.
not that many
Yep.
calories, and being in a calorie deficit is so huge. And it's taught in health classes and stuff like that, but it's not. It's taught in health classes, but then you go to the cafeteria and see what the kids are eating, and kids are being offered in schools, and what's quick and easy for work. I only got a half hour to go run to a place. What food can I get in that amount of time and have time to digest and sit down and eat? And it's really like it's systematically
Yeah.
broken.
Yeah. What I don't do it anymore, but when I originally lost the 85 pounds, I exclusively used intermittent fasting. And I was eating in like a 16-8 pattern, where, for your listeners, like it's um, 16 hours of fasting per day, and you eat in an 8-hour window. So I was basically eating lunch and dinner is what it boiled down to. I didn't eat breakfast for like 3 or 4 years while I was losing the weight. And that was instrumental to me, to showing me that like you can be empty. All right. You were talking about being empty.
Yeah,
You can be empty and still have plenty of energy.
right.
It's just a feeling. That's it. And just because you feel a little bit of a hunger pang doesn't immediately mean that you need food. It does not mean that. Like, you're going to be okay. I certainly wouldn't recommend, going to super extremes or starving yourself or anything. But at the same time, like, it's okay to not have a stomach full of food. And you are correct. And Tyler, like, there are so many people out there at the slightest little bit of a hunger pang. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to waste away. I need food right away. It's like, no, no. It's like, it's the only human feeling,
Hmm.
that we feel like we need to like quench it immediately. Like, there's almost like no other feeling like that. Like,
Right.
like if like you're angry, you don't just like go around, beating the crap out of people. Or if you have a sexual urge, you don't just like act on it immediately, like impulsively, hopefully not anyways.
Yeah,
Like,
you
but
might be in
hunger,
jail. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna run into some issues. But hunger, for whatever reason, there's so many people. Yeah, like the second you feel any sort of discomfort, it's like I need to eat, and it's like no, actually, you don't. You're gonna be okay. You can deal with some mild discomfort, and every time I would have my own mild discomfort during that, I would just kind of see it as penance. Like, dude, you just lived like 8 years of your life being a fat slob. So
Yeah.
deal with it. It's a little bit of hunger.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be okay, that sort of a thing.
There's a bell curve to the statement that I'm going to make, and it doesn't cover everyone, but a lot of people believe that when your physical body looks, I'll use the term sloppy, or not well, or not fit,
Mhm,
then that's actually a reflection of your mind, and that's a mind that's unfit.
mhm.
How much do you agree to that?
I personally agree with it, wholeheartedly because I've gone through those sorts of things myself. When I'm working out, when I'm getting steps, when I'm lifting weights intensely, when I'm eating healthy food, when I'm getting a good night's sleep, when I'm doing all those things, I am so much more mentally sharp.
Hmm.
I find I'm more focused with work. I have more confidence in myself. Because yeah, the body is being taken care of and it's being nourished and it's moving in the right direction. And I feel like my mind completely follows that. Not only that, but when you do get into like to really good shape, and this is something that I didn't know until it happened to me, it's going to give you an immense amount of confidence. And you just start to realize like, oh, okay, like the road, and this is a kind of a universal truth, the road to doing amazing things in life is incredibly unsexy. Like, you know,
Yeah.
the thing that you do, right? The end point, that's the sexiness.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
path there is full of mundane, boring, sometimes tedious daily work on
Hmm.
yourself, on your health, on your business, on your career, on your relationships, day in and day out. It's the work that nobody else wants to do,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like, the path is very mundane, but it adds up to greatness over time. That's you're talking about the sticking with it mentally. Yeah, 100%. And if you can endure those things and just make the small incremental progress towards whatever your goals are, that's the path that's going to get you there. Doing all those things that honestly, like I said, nobody else wants to do. You
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah, there's so many self-help books out there, and like self-improvement stuff, but ultimately the ownership needs to be there, right? Like
Hmm.
we have to want it. I kicked off 2024 on January 1st, and I did 45 straight days at carnivore diet.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. I felt like I was thriving off of it. I slept the best I've ever slept in my entire life, even on minimal sleep. Like there was days where I wasn't
Mhm.
getting that much sleep, and I felt rested even when I woke up. Like it was,
Awesome.
I dialed in my nutrition. I was losing weight. I was feeling healthier and happier about myself. My self esteem was higher, and I got off of it. And I got off of it because of the pocketbook, because meat, the price of beef in America went sky high.
Sky high, yeah, huge.
When I bought a whole cow in the state of Washington, cost me $2,500 processed for whole beef. Came down to Texas, bought a half a beef for the exact same price as that whole beef.
Holy smokes.
And
Holy smokes,
at
yeah.
that point, it's like, I mean, I was still focusing on like eating better, or eating. I really ingrained the protein concept into my head. And
Mhm. Mhm.
that is so lacking. I feel bad for all my students that I've taught out of a book of health, and I'm like, well, that's not accurate, right? Like the stuff
Mhm.
that we're taught as teachers to then reteach to the masses, like there's a lot of fallacies in that curriculum, and I feel sad, right? Like it hurts my heart. And I also need to take care of myself as a anecdotal evidence. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this works. A part of kicking off 2024 was my commitment to fitness as well, and that was that I was going to dedicate. I hate burpees, or I hated burpees. Like,
Everyone hates burpees. Nobody likes burpees, come on.
and so I was like, okay, I'm going to do 100 burpees a day every single day in 2024.
Wow.
And I did it, and I crushed that accomplishment. It felt
Hell
amazing.
yeah. Awesome.
And that was one of the first times that in my life where I said, I'm going to do something and I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't nutrition. That is like that's hard for me personally. Like
Yeah.
in all vulnerability, I can commit to reading daily. I can commit to water intake daily. I can commit to, fitness, working out. Like, but that nutrition was so difficult. and
Yeah.
I'm also emotionally attached to it. So, like this last week, you and I are recording on September 15th, and this last week was a very high emotionally draining week for a lot of
Yeah.
people across America with the shooting of Charlie Kirk, and whether or not people saw or knew who Charlie Kirk was, but then to actually see what happened in video up
Yeah.
close,
Yeah.
like that is something that humanity doesn't need to lay their eyes upon, and yet so many people were affected by that. And I was tracking your social media account that day, and you're like, it's time to log off. It's time to,
Yeah,
put the phone
yeah,
down and get away from
after
it.
I saw that video, it was, yeah, it was time to log off, like, just trying to process it.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to his family. And during that time, I was like, dude, Friday night family movie pizza night for the kids, and I make a pizza,
Mhm.
and I'm like, dude, and my wife caught me just like standing over staring at it. I knew I wasn't going to eat it, but I'm like, oh, that smells so good. I know how good that tastes when I bite into it. But my goal is that I want to be fit, and I can't go to foods like that if I want to maintain my fitness
Yeah,
level.
yeah. Yeah, we're all human beings are just so dopamine driven, like, at almost at all times, and everybody has their sources of dopamine, right? And it's difficult to always try to remember that your sources of dopamine are supposed to be clean sources, right?
Yeah.
Dopamine keeps us motivated and it keeps us driven, and it's supposed to be, you work out, you get some dopamine, you eat healthy, you get some dopamine, have sex with your partner, you get some dopamine, that sort of a thing. But there are just so many cheap artificial sources, whether it's food or weed or nicotine or alcohol or porn, those things permeate our society, and they're tempting, like, 100%. They're tempting, and food is the rest of those things. You can say, okay, I need to abstain, right? Like, I need to not do those things because I know that those are unhealthy dopamine sources. But, like, I mean, you have to eat. You can't not
Right.
eat. I mean, imagine telling an alcoholic, like, okay, I want you to have 2 drinks per day, okay, but that's it. Like, that's a difficult thing to do,
Right.
which really kind of puts food in its own category. But you're right. I mean, the working out, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
The difficult part is the diet. Like, 100%, it's the diet. Like, you got that right.
Yeah, it is so fascinating for me to, my wife, she's like, dude, you yo-yo, get in
Yeah.
gear. And we make so many decisions based off of how we were raised, right? Like, oh,
Oh
mama's home
yeah.
cooking, or well, this is the type of food that my
Yeah.
parents provided for me, and all this. And,
Yeah.
you know, I teach a lot of life skills in my classes, and we talk about the human psychology where it's between ages 2 and 6 are where we really start to develop our perception of life and how to view it. And then we filter it through our lens, and then that creates our thoughts, which lead to our feelings, which lead to our emotions, which lead to actions, and then actions have consequences. And then it's just
Mhm.
a looping cycle that goes over and over and over. So I, everyone from my perspective reverts back to their childhood trauma when bad things happen or where challenges arise, and
Mhm.
so we need to be able to overcome that and be like, I'm not that little boy anymore that mom would give me a bowl of ice cream to help me feel better. Like, oh, you don't feel
Yeah.
good? Here, have
Yeah.
some sugar, right? There's a movie I watched, man, a couple years ago, and I don't exactly remember what movie it was, but this boy had chocolate, and he was with this girl who's never had chocolate before, and he gave her some to make her feel, or can't make anyone feel good, but to provide opportunity for her to
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
it, and she loved it, and she started crying. And he's like, what's wrong? I wanted to provide this to you so you could find joy in it. And she goes, I wish I never would have had it because now all I can think about is that.
Yeah, no, I mean, those sorts of things, you're right. Like, the things that we deal with when we're younger, they certainly form things. I know for me, when I was a kid, my dad worked a lot. He always came to my sporting events, very supportive, all that. But during the week, he would work. Like, I mean, he'd be up at, like, you know, typical boomer, waking up at 5:30 in the morning and coming back at like 9:30 at night because he
Uh-huh.
was working so much, trying to provide for the family. I don't fault him for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, he came to all my sporting events. He was extremely supportive, very active, and involved in my life and everything. But Friday afternoons, my mom was a nurse and she would always work Fridays. So Fridays, my dad would get off work early. He would come home and he would grab me and my sister and we would go and it was always like McDonald's or Wendy's, and it was like every single Friday.
Hmm.
So, you know, that it was a warm feeling. Dad's taking us to go get fast food. So you equate these moments with this food,
Yeah.
and it creates this like neural pathway where if you want to have that feeling again, okay, go get that crap food. Right, that sort of a thing. Those can certainly happen. Those are powerful. Like those pathways that get solidified when we're younger. It can be difficult to break those pathways.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, 100%. So, on your journey of, and we'll stay on the nutrition topic, and we'll talk about the fitness side of it, lifting weights and all that here in just a moment.
Sure.
Does your whole household eat the way you do?
Not at all.
And are you and
No.
your wife on the same page as far as your
Me and
diet?
my
Like,
wife are on the same page. She lifts. She actually uses uses my programs. She's actually as we are recording this, like the weight room. We have like a weight room with like barbells and dumbbells on. So, like she's doing deadlifts. So like I hope that it doesn't come through, but like I can like feel the floor vibrating a little bit because she's downstairs doing deadlifts right now. She lifts. She lifts and walks mainly as her fitness choices. I have two daughters. They are now, back when I started it, like they were newborns, but they're now 15 and 13.
mhm,
So my 15-year-old is a sophomore and she plays high school volleyball. So I actually got her into lifting last year.
yeah,
She was, as a freshman, she made the JV team. And she's like, Dad, I want to make varsity. I'm like, okay, well, you need to get stronger. She's very thin and wiry.
mhm,
So we've been, squatting and deadlifting and doing that sort of a thing. She does as well as she can with protein. She's not a big. It's tough though. Like she has food aversions. Like me, I can eat like 2 to 3 pounds of meat per day and be totally fine with that. Like
yeah,
that works for me. But she has like some aversions to eating large amounts of meat. So I always emphasize like, hey, dude, like if you're lifting, well, you need to build that muscle. You need to get enough calories. You need to get enough protein, that sort of a thing. So she does like a lot of protein shakes, a lot of Greek yogurt, some meat, that sort of a thing. My youngest, who's 13, she doesn't want to hear any of it. So, I mean, we all have our own path, and you can't force it down people's throats.
yeah,
Every meal we make has a big protein base. It's either chicken or ground beef or steak, generally speaking, and with some carbs on the side. So they all have those meals, but with my 13-year-old, a lot of times it's like, I don't want that. I'm going to make some grilled cheese. And it's like, you know, it's a fine line. You'll see these fitness influencers out there like, you need to force your kid to do this and force your kid. I'm like, well, they are like their own person too. I'm not going to, demand that my 13-year-old, eat exactly what I make for her and stand over her until she does or something.
yeah,
It shouldn't be like that. But I'm definitely one to say, okay, we're not gonna eat these treats, because I mean my oldest plays volleyball, my youngest plays travel basketball. They're insanely active,
mhm,
insanely. So when they're like, hey, I want to go to Starbucks and get a refresher, or can we stop at Crumble? Like for me, I'm like, I'm not eating that 800 calorie cookie, but for them, like, I mean, they're playing athletics 2 to 3 hours per day, every single day. So they can get away with that. And I'm sure to tell them, like, just so you can't be doing this once you stop playing sports. Just make sure you realize,
right,
because of us adults, I mean, no, you did the athletic thing when you were younger. Like I used to eat everything in sight
right,
when I was in high school and when I was playing baseball in college, and I weighed 215 pounds at 6'8". Like I was a string bean. But that all changes.
yeah,
So we're very mindful of discussing those sorts of things with them, doing it in a healthy way.
yeah,
Not doing it in a like you don't want to be fat way, especially with girls. You don't want to cause any issues or anything like that. But like, all right, these are healthy foods. We want to eat these foods all the time, regularly.
yeah,
This is a treat. This is an every once in a while thing. This right here, you should basically never eat other than a couple times per year, those sorts of things. So I do a good job, or at least I hope I do a good job with doing those little teaching all the finer points and the nuances. But at the same time, everybody's got to, have their own journey
Yeah.
with this sort of a thing.
Who does the majority of cooking in your house?
Honestly, I probably cook more than my wife does,
And it
but and I call it cook, but it's like, I no offense to, I don't know. Hopefully, she doesn't hear me when I say this. She doesn't listen to my podcast, but I'm not gonna put. You're talking about the price of meat. I'm not gonna put a 17.99 per pound New York strip into her hands and have her cook it. I know I'll do a better job.
right. So that's what I found on my health journey also is that because I'm focusing more on the protein every single day,
Yeah.
I love cooking the protein, right? Because where do you cook it at? A grill,
Right,
a
a grill,
cast iron,
yeah, a
a
grill or
flat
a
top,
cast
like
iron skillet,
yeah,
yeah,
and
those are your options there,
and
so
so as
we
an
eat we eat simple meals, though, like, it's usually a ground beef base. We might do, like, Mexican with ground beef, or, we'll make bacon cheeseburgers or something.
mhm,
That's pretty much a staple in our house, or, my family will do spaghetti, and I'll just eat the beef, with, the marinara sauce, and I might eat that with some rice. I'm just not a big pasta fan. I feel like crap after I eat pasta. Like that,
yeah,
the gluten bloats me, and I just feel like garbage. So I'll have a different carb source. There's always little tinkers you can do, right? I'll have clients that'll be like, "Well, what am I going to do if my family doesn't like the way I'm cooking?" And I'm like, "Well, you can't force them to eat what it is that you want to eat. You
mhm,
can't do that. So see if you can take that protein base and this change up the carb source a little bit. But every meal should have the same basic format. You start with your protein, you have a protein base, and then you add in some carbs. And if it's super lean, like chicken breast or something, or like whitefish, okay, you might be able to add a fat on top of it. If you're talking ground beef, the fat's already built in. It has plenty of saturated fat. Anyways, you're probably not going to be adding fats to beef,
mhm,
just in general. So
yeah, interesting. What now? You've never hunted before, but you've wanted to. Is that
yeah, no, it's just something that I've never done. I did not grow up in a hunting family. Living up in Michigan, I have a number of friends that are outdoorsmen that go hunting fairly regularly. But no, I've gone fishing a bazillion times. I go ice fishing every winter. That's like a huge thing to do up here. I grew up in Cincinnati. We don't ice fish in Cincinnati.
yeah,
It, it,
right?
it basically doesn't freeze over. But up here, once I moved up here, started ice fishing. I do a lot of top water bass fishing and stuff during the summertime. But no, just I've never gotten around to hunting. I always wanted to go.
Okay. Well, one of the talking points on promoting hunting is that it's super lean meat, and
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
which is great if you don't want that fat content. But when I was doing like the carnivore diet, you actually needed that fat content to like
You
supplement
need the
you.
calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need the calories.
So where's your stance on high fat protein options like ribeyes and stuff like that, ground beef versus not like really watching your fat content in your proteins?
Yeah, one thing to always keep in mind is the way pendulums swing in nutrition, right? And think about all the different changes, since like the 80s. In the 80s, it was like saturated fat is going to kill you. There was like the Time magazine cover that I believe it was like bacon and egg in the ashtray. Like, is fat the new smoking? Or maybe it was a stick of butter in the ashtray. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But fat, it was all carbs. Everything was low fat, yada, yada, yada. And then that kind of changed. And then all of a sudden it was like, you need to stay away from sugar. And then it was, you need to stay away from gluten. And then it was, you need to stay away from all carbohydrates, right? You need to go carnivore, keto, or those sorts of things. It's always important to remember that the poison is in the dose. It's in the dose. Right now, everybody is carb conscious. Everybody, right? Everyone's trying to limit their carbohydrate intake. There's a lot of people that will think like that carbohydrates are the cause of obesity, that sort of a thing. High carb versus low carb diets, high fat versus low fat diets. It has consistently been shown that they can all work. It's whatever you can stick to best and create a calorie deficit, right? When you're talking something like carnivore, um, that's considered an elimination diet, right? It eliminates an entire food group. Actually, it eliminates all foods other than meat and eggs, basically,
Yeah.
right? So it's whenever you do that, think about all the foods that you're eliminating. You're eliminating everything that's processed, right? Nothing that's process is going sky high, which is going to satiate you better. It's also provides a metabolic advantage. 25% of the calories you eat via protein are automatically used in the digestive process. So that's a big part of it too. It provides a metabolic boost when you up your protein intake like that. I would always be leery of saturated fat content. And it's not that saturated fat is bad, right? I just sat here and told you, I eat red meat pretty much on a daily basis. After I get off this podcast, my dinner is going to be red meat. So, I don't mind saturated fat. Saturated fat can be healthy for you. But there are a whole lot of, anecdotal pieces of people going keto, which a true ketogenic diet is like 70% fat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you're getting 70% fat and the vast majority of the fat that you're taking in is saturated, you're very likely going to be running into some blood lipid issues. And, even though cholesterol, right, our cholesterol numbers are probably overblown, and it should not be, right, you hear like, cholesterol, it should be under 200. That number is relatively arbitrary. But at the same time, when you're seeing people with, 350, 400, 500, as a cholesterol count, that could be a sign that something isn't right there. So
Do you
it's
follow
go
Dr.
ahead.
Sean Baker?
Oh yeah, good old Sean Baker. I mean, everybody follows Sean Baker, doesn't he? Don't they? Yeah,
He's from
the king of the ribeyes. I know. I just got like, there's always nuance with this stuff. I know it's the old teacher in me. I get verbose with things, but to directly, before we go to Sean Baker, to directly answer your question, I don't think it's a good idea to be eating nothing but ribeyes, butter, eggs, and bacon. I don't think that's a very smart nutritional approach. Everybody is carb conscious. Like I said, we do need to be a little bit more fat conscious and not overeat it. I think that can seriously cause some lipid issues with some people. But anyways, to Sean Baker.
Oh, well, I mean, okay. I'm going to just say it. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I believe that what we are told in mainstream media and education and all this stuff is not the truth. I say that and back it up with anecdotal evidence, like what we were talking about earlier. Like, I felt the best in my entire life during that type of diet. And the biggest concern and argument that people always say is, oh, your cholesterol. Well, when you go to a doctor, if you have high cholesterol, the first thing they want to do is put you on big pharma, right? They want to put you on a statin.
You could not pay me to take a statin.
Right.
Like if you said, $10 million to start taking statins the rest of your life, I'd say, no, I'm good.
Right. And it's like, well, you may say my cholesterol's high. My body is telling me, and this is one of the things I want to make sure listeners understand, is that you need to be able to listen to yourself. You need to have internal dialogue and be in an alignment with your body and say, what do I not feel good in? What am I not feeling optimal? That was one of the things that really kicked off my health journey as of late. Was I was taking walks with my wife in the neighborhood, and I was like, man, I don't feel optimal. I don't, I can go run multiple miles. Yes, I can go do these things, but I something's off. And that was one of my big kicks. So going back to the whole cholesterol thing is like, oh, well, you got to watch out your cholesterol. I'm like, man, Big Pharma has their hands in everyone's pockets, and people get paid off by promoting certain products. Everything's marketing in this world, I feel like, right? Like, you buy food on a shelf because of what the label looks like, not necessarily what's the ingredients or what it's actually providing you. And then that's a very large statement. Obviously, people who are health conscious don't necessarily fall into those guidelines, but we're talking about like the average human being, the average American these days.
Right. And there's always there's a pendulum on these things, like I agree with you that the 200 mark for cholesterol is like I said, it's likely arbitrary. Like, was it very well could be a number that somebody in Big Pharma has created, realizing that probably about half the population or more is going to be over that 200, and what a great way to sell them some drugs.
Right.
I mean, I totally get that, and hopefully RFK Jr. Puts an end to all the advertisements that we see. I that's the most messed up thing that there's all these different advertisements for medications. Like, what a simple way to clean everything up. But I don't know if the lobbyists are ever going to go for that one. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, all right, now you're talking conspiracy theory. What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Oh, I don't think I have a favorite one. I think like I'm still waiting for everything to just kind of unfold.
Okay.
But the one thing I hang my hat on is the monetary system and ending the Fed
Oh yeah.
and all that.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's
Well, and
like
that's what like all that stuff with COVID went on, which like it just blew my mind. That they were trying to force that shot on everybody and get everybody to take it. And like they keep playing this like trust me, bro, like sort of a thing. And it's like the track record that big pharma has, like, I mean, the whole Purdue Pharma and Sackler family and shoving that stuff down our throats and creating a nation full of opiate addicts.
mhm.
And then just a few years removed from that, it's like, here, take this. And it's like, hold up, what?
Yeah,
Like it was just, I don't know. Our society can be messed up at
yeah,
times.
yeah, agreed. And I mean, this is a whole podcast within itself. Ultimately, I just want to wrap up this section because we could go conspiracy talk and what's really in our foods and genetically modified and non-GMO and
Yeah.
like this is a bigger concept than what I wanted to tie in for this specific episode. But if you're ever interested in talking about that, feel free. You're welcome to come back on. We can,
Yeah,
we, we can
we can call this part one. Like, we can talk for hours on this subject.
But I will say that when people lose track of knowing themselves, right? Socrates says to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Mhm.
Stop going to other people for answers or saving or whatever and start just internally reflecting. Do I feel the best? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. Do I want more for my life? Yes or no? Do I feel like I'm lacking and I could improve in an area? And just using that as like the litmus test. Oh, I ate
Mhm.
this. I don't feel that good. Or,
Mhm.
you know,
Well, let me give a caveat to that too. One thing that people really need to understand, and this is super important when it comes to nutrition, it's also important when it comes to training, is that can change, and it probably will
it's
change
fluid.
too.
Yeah.
But you cannot like get caught up in your ideology and in your dogma, right? So you say you did carnivore, you felt amazing on it. Most likely, you felt so amazing on it because you completely eliminated processed food. You were eating all whole foods. You were ramping up your protein. You felt clean as far as your energy sources go. Would that continue forever? Maybe. But if you take, well, you were talking about Sean Baker. Now all of a sudden, Sean Baker is eating fruit and he's eating honey and he's eating these like, carb sources. A lot of these carnivore guys, they're moving towards like a more
Just whole
well-rounded
foods.
diet
Yeah.
because eventually, and like I said, I used intermittent fasting for like 4 years, never ate breakfast, and I had to be careful not to get caught into that dogma because after a while, it was like, I was kind of feeling like a little bit like anemic, a little bit lightheaded in the mornings, a little bit, and I'm like, well, maybe I'd be okay if I started eating breakfast. And around like 2015, 2016, I started eating breakfast. Now I eat breakfast every day.
Hmm.
So like, those things can change just because, a carnivore works for you for 3 or 4 months. Great, you got that initial food off of, or initial weight off of you, and you're starting to feel better and you're feeling less inflamed.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can start to look at carbohydrate sources that you do feel good, that interact with you well, that give you nice clean energy, that fill you up, that don't make you feel like crap, right? Like
Yeah.
not every carbohydrate is the devil.
Right.
Like there are levels to this thing. Maybe you would perform better. So it's always important that the self-experimentation doesn't stop.
Hmm.
Like you keep experimenting on yourself, especially like you said, listen to your body. How do you feel optimal? And maybe there are some people that would feel optimal on carnivore long term, but I'd be willing to guess that most people eventually, once they learn some discipline and learn, what they should be eating and what they shouldn't, to shy away from the processed stuff, to move towards more whole foods, most people would probably feel better with a more balanced nutritional approach.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Well, that's a great segue into the fitness side of things because you're talking about, once you start to create healthy habits, right?
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
it's easy to start eating healthy because you're like, oh, well, I can't quit on myself now. I've gone this long. I might as well just
mhm,
stay in it. That was what was the big thing about the burpees when I did it for 365 days was that I was like, okay, the hardest burpee was the first one.
oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
for
yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
like, it was getting out of standing up and putting my hands on the ground. That was the
Mhm,
hardest block. Were they physically difficult for me at the beginning? Yeah. Were my hamstrings cramping and quads cramping and my stomach just cramped? Yes. I had a weak core, and now my core is very strong, and
mhm,
doing a burpee is just like, oh yeah, it's like, standing up off the toilet. Doesn't seem like it's hard work or whatever.
yeah.
So when it comes to fitness routines, you mentioned at the intro of this episode that you were all about doing lifts that incorporate multiple muscles and give you the most bang for your buck for fitness in that regard. What are those, and then what are the routines that uh, I don't know, you recommend for people? Is it, oh, I only lift 3 days a week? Am I lifting? Do I need to lift every day? Do I need a rest day? There's guys like Cameron Haynes out there that don't believe in a day off, right? And like they just keep
Mhm,
going, keep
mhm.
going. What's your take on that?
Yeah, yeah. In general, the older you are, the more you really don't want to have excessive rest days. Especially if you're like the weekend warrior type. And what I mean by that is like, oh, okay, I'm really busy during the week. So on Saturday and Sunday, I'll do like, 3 hour workouts, like
Hmm.
that sort of a thing. You would get much better results if you did like, 30 or 40 minutes of something
Yeah.
5 or 6 days per week than trying to like load. It's just like, same concept with cramming for a test, right? Cramming for an exam. You're going to do much better if you're studying 30 minutes a day as opposed to like, 5 hours the night before the test, that sort of a thing. That being said, if you are brand new to fitness, you really do run the risk of burning yourself out too quickly if you're going from 0 to 100. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made. Is like I said, I would go through these like yo-yo phases where I would like, work out 6 days per week for 2 hours,
Hmm.
and after 6 weeks, all of a sudden, like my body is starting to break down. I can't hack it. It's like too mentally draining. I love what you said there. Like, the first burpee was the hardest. Yeah. I think it was Ed Lattimore that said, the heaviest weight you will ever lift is the gym door.
Yeah.
Like if you can make it into the gym, and James Clear is another guy, the Atomic Habits author. He's famous for saying, you don't have to do a whole workout, just do the first 5 minutes. Like if you don't want to do a whole workout, just tell yourself, I'm going to do 5 minutes of a workout.
Hmm.
So do 5 minutes. And if you feel like quitting, then quit. But 99 times out of 100, after the first 5 minutes, after you break that dam and you begin, you're good. Like, okay, I'm just going to finish this. I'm here already, that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
I do, if you're starting from scratch, and I have a lot of clients that like they're starting from scratch, either completely from scratch, or it's like, I used to be in really good shape and I haven't worked out in like 10 years, that sort of a thing. And in that situation, I usually build some sort of like a daily habit of walking, just to make sure that they're getting up, especially with desk jobs the way that they are. Everybody has sedentary lifestyles. They're sitting behind a desk.
Yeah, I went from being a
Uh,
PE teacher on my feet every single day to now I sit at a desk in a building that has no windows and
yeah. Oh,
like
that's
like,
rough.
like full
Yeah.
on, I am sedentary. And so
Yeah.
tying it into the fitness thing, I like to run, not necessarily because I love running or I'm a runner. And I know I need to lift more
Mhm.
weights, but I like to run just so I get steps and like move my body and like,
Absolutely.
you know,
That was something that I never had to do when I was teaching. Like I was naturally getting 10,000, 12,000, 14,000 steps per day just because I would tell myself, okay, just stay on your feet. Don't be the teacher that sits behind the desk. Be like up and walking around and talking to kids and helping them out and yada, yada. So I would naturally get all those steps.
mhm,
And when I stopped teaching, all of a sudden I'm working at a laptop all day long. So then I went, oh crap, like, wow, I can really tell that my metabolism has dropped. I need to actively be going out and getting those steps.
yeah.
So yeah, when someone is very first starting off, you got to build the habit first and be consistent with the habit
Mhm.
first. So I generally will start people off with 3 days per week in like a full body strength training format, right around 40 or 50 minutes or so. There's no reason you don't need to be spending 90 minutes lifting weights in the gym if you're have an intelligent program that you're looking at. But then, I'll tell them, look, if we're 2 or 3 months into this thing and you're rocking and rolling and you're killing and you're feeling amazing and you want to add a fourth day or you want to add a fifth day, we can do that. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But we got to learn how, you got to learn how to walk before we can run, sort of a
Hmm.
thing. We need to make sure that you're rock solid. Like you don't want me to be programming you a 5 day per week bodybuilding split or something. And then you get like 4 weeks into it. And I take a look and you're only working out 2 or 3 days per week. Like, what's the point of that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So let's solidify this habit and let's build on it. Make that habit rock solid and let's build on it. Like my goal for everybody that I work with closely is that like when I'm done with you, you never need another coach. You understand how this all works. You have your habits locked in. You're enjoying your training. That's important too. When I start working with someone, I'll tell them like, what exercises do you hate?
Hmm.
Like, be very honest. And a lot of them will say burpees. that's usually number one. But it doesn't make any sense to be programming. Fitness should be enjoyable. And maybe not the actual act of the lift itself,
Hmm.
because it's inherently painful. Like, I mean, let's be real. Like
Right.
you're straining, you're pushing yourself hard. Like, but it should not be a completely unpleasurable experience. You should feel good when you're done with it.
Yeah, totally. Are you an Olympic lifter? Are we talking squats, deadlift, cleans, bench? Like
Yes,
that's the type of
I
stuff?
used to be really into like the big three, squat, deadlift, bench press. When I very first started, I was all about the big numbers. I got my deadlifts into the 500s, my squat into the 300s, which I know for someone who's really serious into lifting, probably like 300, that's not that much. Well, I'm 6'8" and I'm super gangly.
Yeah, you got a
I'm a
long
total
ways to go.
ectomorph.
Yeah.
I have a long ways to go. And even with bench press too, I've got these big, huge, long monkey arms. Like,
Yeah.
I just have a really far way to push that weight. As I've gotten older and as I've evolved, I've gotten away from that. I still do deadlift. I do not barbell back squat, because I've found I started moving away from like the pure strength powerlifting component sort of stuff to more like muscle gain and hypertrophy and longevity and feeling good and looking good.
Hmm.
So I'll do like leg presses, I'll do leg curls, leg extensions, I'll still do deadlifts. My gym, I go to a Lifetime, so it has like all the different tools. It has a belt squat machine, which is like my new favorite tool. I don't know if you've ever seen a belt squat before. Um,
I have
Oh,
not.
it's awesome. Like the belt goes around your waist and there's a chain that hangs between your legs and
Oh,
it
and you do
connects
a
to the
squat.
weights underneath you.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
do a squat that way. That way I don't have to deal with like the back compression. So I can
Hmm.
really load it up and torch my quads. So I'm a big fan of that. And honestly, I even shied away from bench presses. I really don't do free weight bench presses. It's all hammer strength machines.
Hmm.
Just because you know what, it's going to maintain and grow a little bit better. And honestly, for me, the big thing is I don't want the injury risk. I don't want a torn pec from doing. I've seen way too many videos of dudes, with 100-pound dumbbells, bench pressing them and ending up tearing a pec. So the hammer strength machines work great. I get an awesome workout, feels good. Gain muscle and strength that way, and you know what? That's good enough for me.
Man, I love that. I love that. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up here pretty soon because obviously this is an episode I feel like we could cover and talk a whole lot more on regards to a lot of different things. Um, if you were gonna be getting a client that's brand new that has a little bit of a fitness background, maybe a little bit of a sport background, but they're working 40, 50 hours a week, maybe they got a bad back from old injuries or slip disc or different
Mhm,
things,
mhm.
maybe a bad knee. um, how are you going to attack and set them up for success?
Well, there's always workarounds. There are no required exercises for fitness. None.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a squat, doesn't matter if it's a deadlift, doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. There's always ways that you can work around injuries. We would be working on strengthening up that back. Doing some exercises in order to strengthen. Movement is medicine. That's important for people to understand, right? Sometimes people, oh, I got a little bit of an iffy back, and it's like, you want to be careful and show perfect form, but honestly, in many of those cases, deadlifting will improve the musculature and improve the strength of your back, and it will help those injuries over time.
Yeah.
That's what people need to understand. Sometimes, if you have a little bit of a nagging injury, strengthening up not only the muscles, but just the tendons and the ligaments and all of that structure surrounding it,
Right.
can be a very positive thing.
Right.
So, in that situation, if someone's super busy, like I said, I'd probably be looking at, three times per week for somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. Hopefully they'd have gym access. Machines are an excellent, for a while there, it was like, if you're not using free weights and barbells, then, you're being a wuss. But luckily that has kind of died down a little bit. That sort of rhetoric, you don't really see it too much online anymore. You used to a lot about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Everyone was like, they were trying to like put everybody into like the powerlifting community. That's kind of died down, and people have gotten a lot smarter with it. So I would highly recommend, using machines in that area, working around some of those injuries. Like I said, there's always a way to work around little nagging injuries,
Yeah.
as long as you're smart and intelligent about it. To where, remember, the goal is to stimulate the muscle. The goal is not to do this one specific exercise that I'm dogmatic about and everybody must do. No, you got to meet people where they're at, without a doubt. And I work with a whole lot of people that are super busy, and all they can fit in is 30 minutes 3 times per week. Okay, cool, we can make that happen. It's not a big deal as long as you're able to stay consistent with it. And in reality, lifting weights really doesn't require that much work if you think about it, right? A solid weight training session might be 15, 20 sets maximum.
Mhm.
How much does a set take? 10 seconds? 15 seconds?
Yeah.
And then you're resting for 2 or 3 minutes, So you're not talking about like an enormous amount of work. You very well could be talking about 3 total minutes of actual energy exertion.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is, you're changing your song on your headphones, or
Right.
getting a drink of water, or fist bumping all the regulars, whatever it is that you do at the gym.
Yeah.
So there's mental ways to frame things that makes them a lot more doable, to seem more manageable. I know that was a big thing for me. Is once I really started thinking about it, I realized, like, dude, over the course of the week, if you're straight for 40 minutes, you're probably putting in less than 10 minutes of actual total work.
Right.
Stop being a bee and do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Agreed. Brother, as we're wrapping this up, anything you want to leave the listeners with?
No, I mean, if they want to contact me, like you said, I do have a presence on X. That's definitely the social media that I am the most active on. Anyman Fitness is the handle. I am actually. You said you're talking about Instagram and Facebook. I've got all those too. So I'm on Instagram, Anyman Fitness. I'm on Facebook. I'm not really that active on Facebook. Just it's kind of like a crap social media these days.
Yeah.
But I am on there. So and the website is anymanfitness.com. You can come check it out. Check out the client results, and there's a thing on the menu there if anybody wants to reach out and inquire, or whatever.
Yeah, I love it. You're entertaining to follow along on X. Some of the things you post, it makes me think about myself. I'm like, okay, do I agree with that? Do I not agree with that? What and that's the best part of it, right? Like, if you're sparking that question in yourself. Brother, I really appreciate your time, energy, effort. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and your experience on your own journey, and how, we always talk about inspire people, so that when we live an inspired life, it just naturally is contagious for other people. So thank you for honing in your own fitness.
Hey, I appreciate it, Johnny. Thanks for the opportunity to share with your listeners, and we should do this again. I had a good time.
I love it. All right, guys, if you enjoyed listening to what we got going on here, go check out anymanfitness.com. Go connect with Jason, follow along. It's time to get our bodies back. It's time to get our minds back, our health back. You want to continue hunting and hiking mountains for ages, and with your kids and with your grandchildren. You got to take care of yourself, right? And it starts now. Don't let another day go by. Remember, hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good, as mentorship is conservation. I'm Johnny Mack, Jason Helmes. Thank you so much for tuning in this episode. Be blessed, freedom on, and as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure.